There we go. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen because I did put together a little presentation that I think is going to answer quite a few questions. And then we will, open it up to Q&A for any questions you have, which I'm sure there will be many, but I think the little presentation will answer some of them. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Where is it? This is why I shouldn't have so many things up on my screen. Why is it not on here? Hold on. Not that one, not that one. Well, this is very interesting. Elizabeth, it is not letting me share this particular screen. Do you have the PowerPoint that I sent you, and can you share it?
Let me take a look. I'll have to log in and everything. So hold on just a second.
This is very weird. I don't know why it's not showing up.
Okay. All right, so just bear with me. Taking its sweet time.
I was going to say, your computer is super fast.
It normally doesn't do this, so not quite sure what's happening.
It's not even a big presentation. It's like 1 megabyte. I don't know why it's not liking us.
It's because we are in a live Q&A Zoom call, and that's when things like to happen. Okay.
Okay, so there we are. All right, can you move to the next slide?
I can.
Thank you.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, so basically, if you're wanting to get started and you don't know how to homeschool, there are 2 ways. You can join a charter, or you can file a private school affidavit. And I will go into more about what each of those means if you could go to the next slide. So charters, the available ones depend on your county, and they are actually, they answer to the state. So it's kind of like your kid going to public school, only it's a charter. You're the teacher. You are responsible for state assessments and that kind of thing, just like you would be in public school. Charters generally give you a pot of money to use to buy curricula and for extracurricular activities. They're all a little bit different. I will say the charter that I use gives me $2,700 a year per kid, which is actually quite a lot. I mean, I struggle to use it all up. We buy lots of fun things from Lakeshore at the end of the year to use it up. Like I said, you have to meet state standards and take state assessments unless your child is not on diploma track, in which case the requirements are a bit different. We ended up removing Sam from diploma track. He's 9, by the way, for a variety of reasons. And so we no longer have to do those kinds of state assessments, but you can definitely keep a child with disabilities on diploma track. You just have to do the state assessments. But you do have an IEP. So, if your child struggles with testing, you can certainly put in place accommodations to help your child with testing, just the same as you could in a public school. There are certain limits, there's certain things they'll allow you to do, but it's exactly the same as it is in public school, basically. Can you go to the next slide? So you get assigned a certified teacher through the charter, but you're your child's primary educator. The certified teacher supports both you and your child as you work through the school year. So if you say, this math program isn't working for my kid, I don't know what to do, but it's just not working. The certified teacher will help you find another math program, give you suggestions, give you guidance on how to implement the program. They do meet with you multiple times a year. They can work with your child to some extent. They're not going to, spend 3 hours a week tutoring your kid in math. You'd have to get a tutor for that, but they will support your child and support you as you educate your child. Your child will have an IEP with a charter, just like they do in public school. I will say the IEP process through our charter is amazing. Instead of feeling like you have to go in armed for battle, they just say, what do you need for your child to succeed? And you tell them and they're like, sure. You want a laptop? Sure, we'll give it to you. You want an iPad? Sure, we'll get it for you. You want, this accommodation? Absolutely, no problem. It's amazingly easy. The bad part is all the charters are full for this year already, because with COVID and distance learning not working for so many kids, a lot of people ended up going the homeschooling route, and the charters are all full. Now I have somebody texting me to join the meeting. Elizabeth, if you have the link for the meeting, will you text it to me real quick so I can forward it to her? I don't want to look it up while I'm talking.
Okay, hold on just a second.
You can check with the charters you're interested in around January 2022 and see when they'll open their waiting list for the following school year. Like the one I'm with, I believe opens, I think you can get on the waiting list in February, if I'm not mistaken. I'm with Visions. I'm in Contra Costa County. That is a big charter a lot of people are with. Some of the others are Compass, Valley View. Somebody just sent me one today. I think it was called Connecting Waters. You just have to look like homeschool charters and put your county in, because it is county dependent. Like Visions is not available in every county. Okay, can you go to the next slide when you have a chance? I know I'm asking you to do many things. Sorry.
No problem.
So the other option, if you were to want to homeschool, somebody says Pacific Charter is another one. Thank you. If you were to want to homeschool your child this year and you can't get into a charter, you can file a private school affidavit. And I put the link here. I will send you all a PDF of this after the presentation. It has the link in there. But literally, you go to that link, you download like a form, you fill in a couple of things like what the name of your school is, and you can make it anything. I could make it the Sam Small Academy if I wanted. It really doesn't matter. And then you take that form to your child's school and you turn it in and you say, we're going to be homeschooling. And they disenroll your child from that school and you are homeschooling. So you can do it one afternoon and the next morning you're homeschooling. The problem with private school affidavit is you are really on your own. You're going rogue, as I call it. You don't get any funding from the state. Your child doesn't get any IEP support. You will lose the services you're getting through your school. You'll be on your own for everything. Some people like this route better because the charters really do hold you kind of accountable, especially if your kid is on diploma track. And you have to turn in like work samples and you have to make sure that the curriculum you're using aligns to state standards. And that is a lot of work. And some people prefer to just do it on their own. And it certainly can do it on your own. California has very, I don't want to say lax homeschooling laws, but they allow a lot homeschooling wise. Let's see. Can you go to the next slide, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Okay, so then curricula. This is whether you do a private school affidavit or a charter, you pick your curricula. The charters will have approved curricula you can choose from, but they generally give you a lot of choices. Like the one we're with has, pages upon pages of choices. So it's not like, here's 3, pick from this, and that's all you can use. There's many choices. I will say with the charters, they usually will not approve a religious-based curricula. And some people like to homeschool for religious reasons. They want their child to have a religious foundation in their education. And if that's the case, charter's not going to pay for your curricula, usually. Depends on the charter, I think, but I think most of them do not. If you file a private school affidavit, you can literally choose anything you want for your curricula. If you want to make it up all off the top of your head, you could do that. There really is no oversight, which is good and bad. I mean, some parents are very good at designing things that will work for their kid and working with their kid, and then it's great. But if you're the kind of person who is not terribly organized and doesn't like planning out that kind of stuff, then you could easily get in over your head. Can you go to the next slide? So I put some popular curricula on here, and again, I'll send you a PDF with all of this. So the ones in the Down syndrome world that are very common for language arts are So Happy to Learn, which is not as much a curriculum as a way of teaching, but it has a ton of materials, like hundreds of books you can download and print. It is basically error-free learning. They really emphasize just the fun of learning and not testing your child on their knowledge. So if your child reads something wrong, you're not supposed to correct what they've read wrong. You just model it, reading it correctly, and eventually your child will get it. We have used it with Sam. It actually is very effective, and I use that method. Now we've moved on to other curricula now, but I still use that method because Sam really does respond very well to not being tested on things. The learning program is another one. The link I put is for Down Syndrome Foundation of Orange County because they have a ton of free learning program stuff on their site. There are other Down syndrome orgs that also use it. I believe we have some of their books in our lending library too. Down Syndrome Foundation of Orange County, you can go on there and download tons of books. And then Special Reads by Natalie Hale. We've had her do presentations for us in the past. Many of you probably know that program. It's a sight word-based reading program, tends to work very well for kids with Down syndrome who are strong sight readers. All three of those programs really kind of are sight word-based. I use them all together. They all work very similarly. And then if you want to move on to language arts that is not specific to Down syndrome, but is popular among homeschoolers, All About Learning is reading and spelling. That's very popular among homeschool families. Learning Without Tears is handwriting and keyboarding primarily, though they have a couple other little things. And then Zoophonics is obviously a phonics-based program that's pretty popular. Can you go to the next slide? Math one's common in the Down syndrome world. So what I am finding among other homeschoolers is that a lot of our kids really struggle with math, and mine certainly does. He is much stronger in language arts than he is in math. So I have tried many, as have a lot of other people who are homeschooling their child with Down syndrome or other disabilities. Touch Math is one a lot of people use. Math UC is very popular. Numicon, Elizabeth has done presentations on Numicon and used it with a lot of our kids. And Right Start Math is another one a lot of homeschoolers like. And then the packaged curricula. So this is what I'm using now, and I love it. And I started homeschooling my 13-year-old last year because he did not do well at distance learning. He has autism and ADHD. He does not have Down syndrome, but he does have learning challenges. And with him, he is still on diploma track. So I needed something that made sure to align to state standards, that he would be prepared for the next grade. And to be honest, I really needed something that was done for me because I was trying to homeschool 2 kids and we have a baby at home. So I looked at the package curricula and they lay it out for you like day by day. You open it up, week 1, day 1, here's what you do. Week 1, day 2, here's what you do. Obviously, you can customize it. If you want to take a vacation and bundle all of week 2 into week 3 and double up, you can. It's totally up to you, but it shows you what needs to be done each day. So the one we used is Bookshark. It is a literacy-based one. It's tons of reading. For my older son, it's both independent reading and read to him. For young kids, it's like strictly mostly reading to them until they're able to read independently. And then it's kind of a hybrid of you read some to them, they read some to you. I'm actually using it with Sam this year because I wanted a more standardized curriculum. And I just went down a few levels because he is considerably behind. For those of you who don't know Sam, he has Down syndrome, autism, and apraxia of speech. So he's definitely not at grade level. Smart kid, very hard for him to communicate what he knows. So I went down a few levels, started around the preschool level, and we're using that. And it's actually going really well. It's a definite sense of accomplishment to every day be like, okay, we completed everything. Now we can be done. The Good and the Beautiful is another one that a lot of people like. It is religious, so a charter is probably not going to pay for it. Same with Sunlight. And then Oak Meadow is another one that is not religion based. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so how long does homeschool take? It very much depends on your child and their age, but usually for the young kids, I would say preschool, kindergarten first, they recommend about 30 to 45 minutes a day. As the kids get older, about 2 to 3 hours, and middle schoolers and high schoolers are 4 to 5 hours. Now, this is for typically developing kids. So for your child with Down syndrome, you know your child best. Some of them are perfectly capable of doing every bit as much time as a typically developing kid, and others are going to need more breaks and they're going to need a shorter time. And that's all fine. You know your kid, you decide how long it takes. For Sam, we tend to get about 45 minutes a day in, and that's pretty good for him, actually. The reason the times are so short, if that looks surprising or confusing, is because you're working one-on-one. There we go. She found the link. You're working one-on-one with your child. So in a classroom where you've got 25 kids, it takes, half an hour to get through the lesson. But when you're working one-on-one with your child, it might take 10 minutes to get through that same lesson because you're not having to stop for questions from other people. You're not having to check everybody else's work. So it may seem like a really short day, but you really do actually get everything in. Can you go to the next slide? And then the big thing is experiential learning is everything. Like, I consider it everything. Of course, I have Sam do the academic things. We read with him, we work on math with him. But for things like science and history and art, everything we do is experiential because he buys into that and he learns better. So if you take a trip to the aquarium for fun, hey, there's a science lesson. Take a trip to a museum. Hey, that's history and art. The charters, a lot of them will pay for craft and STEM kits like Ivy Kids, Kiwi Crates, Radish Kids. Great way to incorporate fun learning, hands-on. Ivy Kids actually includes in their monthly box a list that tells you how to modify for younger children. And I found that actually works really well for Sam too. Games are learning too. They're super easy to modify to accommodate learning differences. You can make almost anything into counting in a game, I found. So given that we really struggle with math, we do a lot of counting in games where you wouldn't normally count. Grocery shopping too is a great way to incorporate sight words. You can have them help read the list. You can have them help look for the labels. Counting, we need 4 avocados. Let's count the avocados. And depending on the age of your kid and the level they're at, even budgeting, like this can of tomato paste is $1. This can of tomato paste is $2. Which one is less? Which should we buy if we want to save money? That kind of thing. Is that my last slide or did I have one more?
One more.
Oh, I do have one more. But what about socialization? That's what everybody asks. Isn't your kid going to be weird and unsocialized? Maybe my children are weird. I don't know. They come from weird parents. It's entirely possible, but it's not because they're homeschooled. Charters normally help facilitate group activities, classes, field trips, extracurriculars. That has been different during COVID because they don't want to expose anyone to anything. So like with our charter, they have only approved virtual activities last year. This year, they're starting to approve in-person activities, but last year it was all virtual. But normally there's a whole list of things you can choose from. Facebook homeschooling groups, there are a bunch around here, and there are always other homeschool families who are looking for kids to socialize with their kids. They want to go on field trips together or even just park play dates or, anything like that. Sometimes they'll form a little pod and like one parent will teach a science lesson for the week or something like that. If you're not on Facebook, ask on Nextdoor. I've seen homeschooling families connecting on Nextdoor too. Nextdoor can be kind of an ugly place sometimes, but you're pretty safe if you just Google homeschooling on there. And homeschooling gives you the flexibility to enroll your child in any socialization opportunity you want. So team sports, youth groups, arts classes. My sons are both in Scouts, and we have several homeschool kids in addition to my own who are in the Scout troop. It doesn't matter that they're not in the school that most of the kids are in. So that is my spiel. And do you want to add anything, Elizabeth, or shall we open it up to Q&A?
I think we should just go ahead and get right into any kind of Q&A. I think you covered some great content there, and hopefully that helps give everybody who may only be considering homeschool or who's just getting started, gives you some ideas, a general overview, and then some of you might have some great experience under your belt that you can share with some other families who may just be getting started or have questions. So that's why we're here, to kind of make it an open forum, if you will. There may be questions Kathleen and I are stumped about that another parent can answer. So let's go ahead and get that conversation started. I'm going to stop the share here for now. And that way I can also address any chat questions we have, because I see we have a couple here. Oh, Pacific Charter. Okay, that's another. Okay, so with that, how do we want to?
I'd say people can either type in the chat, or you can use the little hand raise feature, wherever that is on here, and raise your hand. Or you can be old fashioned and raise your hand like this.
We can look there. Yeah, I'll put it in that format where I can see everybody.
Oh, I see a hand raised from Raquel. Okay, Raquel, what's your question?
Hi, thank you. Those prepackaged programs, like the book shark that you were talking about, it sounded like it was like very highly like the literary part of it. But does that prepackaged program also have like the math component, history, science, stuff like that, or?
Yeah, it in Bookshark in particular, which is the one I've used, it is all wrapped together in one, and there's add-on components. So you can add on different math programs, or I added on handwriting without tears this year. They actually, the literature that you read, they incorporate the history and science into it. So like the books we're reading are about, the Revolutionary War or World War II or the discovery of plutonium or whatever. So they wrap it in there. I see another hand up. Sophia?
My question is about, or two questions. One about the packet curriculums. So my daughter's levels are uneven. She's very strong in reading, but she struggles more in math. So, reading, she's at a third grade. She's 9. But math, she's more, first grade, second grade. When you buy those curriculums, would you just buy lower down?
You could do that on Bookshark in particular, and that's the only packaged one I've used. So that's why I'm keep going back to that one. You pick the level you want for the literacy part of it, and then the math is an add-on, and you can pick a different level of math.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of the package curriculums because I want to be told what to do.
Me too.
But is that do you have to go with a packet to get the like day by day kind of instruction? Or
as far as I know, when I started homeschooling Sam, I put together curriculum on myself by myself, and there was nothing that told you what to do day by day. You could buy this curriculum and it would give you different lessons, but you had to map out what your days looked like.
Okay. And then my second question was, we just started homeschooling this, she's been fully included in a regular classroom up until this year. And because of COVID, we pulled her out. And our program, she does go in person 2 days a week. And it's a small 10-person group of homeschoolers. And then she's with me the other days. And when I'm supposed to be doing social studies or history, those things seem so abstract when I'm trying to talk her through it. So I'm having a little bit of trouble knowing what my goals should be in those areas. Like, is it just enough to be discussing it, whether she's getting anything or not? And like, what kind of, I do have to show learning samples. So like, what kind of learning sample could I do for some of these more abstract concepts? She's a 4th grader, so.
Can I take that one?
Yes, I was just going to send that one over to you.
Sophia, that's a great question. And a couple of things. The first thing I think would be great to do. So we have these curricula, right? And you've got these packages, and you can enter in a grade level, and it comes to you and it tells you what to do. But you still are, working with a child who may have significant challenges or may not be able to or have more of a challenge connecting to a particular type of content. Like you said, it may be more abstract. And this is when we still do need to make certain modifications to the work that we're doing. I will say that in general, when we do our accommodations and modifications workshop, which is available on our website, there's a recording of that, which gives tangible examples of modified work. And specifically science and social studies, which seem kind of abstract. What we have recommended in the past, of course, it's not up to us, but it's just a recommendation, is really taking a look at the key ideas and pulling key vocabulary. So let's say you're learning about photosynthesis. Well, that in itself, right, is a pretty tricky word. And so instead of looking at the material that has 15 vocabulary words with a paragraph for each term, you really break it down into the main concept. Try to think about what are the 3 to 5 main ideas about photosynthesis. Now, what kind of words can we use that's relatable to my child's learning level? How can we simplify it? Have a picture of a plant. So what can we use? Visuals. My child is a visual learner. So let's make sure we've got visuals in place. Let's make sure we've got maybe 5 vocabulary words that we're working on that we think, whether it's sun or light, earth and dirt, water, rain, and then having a picture that's attached to it. You can also get books like she may be reading at a 3rd grade level, but maybe getting like a shared reading book with content that's a little more digestible. And then utilizing, we want to make sure that we're working with our kiddos' strengths. So it's always about, okay, what can she do? What are her strengths? Great, she's a great reader. Let's take that, maybe take it in more digestible chunks with a lower reading level, and then pick out just key vocabulary words. And then I also want to say, like Kathleen said, those experiences are also a great way to build her understanding. And so going out, planting something, going to the science museum, going to, on a field trip to a place, for a particular type of social studies unit that you're working on. And those things we're also here to help you brainstorm about. If you're ever on a particular unit and you're like, this feels super abstract, that's when you can just reach right out to me. That's one of my favorite parts about this job, is I love to think of creative ways that we can tie the curriculum to your individual learner and her strengths. And but yeah, just sticking with those key areas of
that's so helpful.
Across, right? And then making sure we're using those visuals, and then reinforce with as much real life hands-on activity that really helps make it the learning meaningful, if that makes sense.
That's so true. And I think she could really get, she can understand it. It's just the way it's presented through the curriculum never seems to really match up with her level. Even if you like grade go down, it's not really quite hitting the right spot. So I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay,
Thanks.
Okay, Carrie offered to show you guys Bookshark because she is also using it, and mine is downstairs and I'm ill prepared. So take it away, Carrie.
So this is the curriculum breakdown for Bookshark. All right. And I'm just going to open up to a random week, and that is for the entire school year. It's all completely broken down beautifully. So, for example, this is week 31, and this is the history breakdown. You probably can't see it very clearly, but what you'll see is like there'll be a book, an assignment, the pages to read, and then it'll come with notes, like teacher's notes on the next page. So that's just the history portion. You have the language arts portion in another page, and it usually has handwriting without tears, or there's some literature you get to read. And then it comes with questions to answer. And then, oh my gosh, the science one is pretty darn amazing. If I could just skip to that real fast. It's got everything broken down, and Book Shark goes by a 4-day school week because they expect you on the 5th day to go do something like a field trip or do something with a family or something like that. So all this is broken down into 4 days. It's amazing. And then it comes with these activity sheets that you can fill out. And each of these activity sheets, like we're with Visions in Education, one of these activity sheets counts as an assignment. It's so easy. You just scan it and you send it over to your certified teacher, and your lesson is done for that day or that week, depending, right? Now, the math curriculum that we're using that comes with Book Shark, been a game changer with math for Dominic. This is called Math UC, and they call this primer, not primer, they call it primer. It comes with a DVD that Dominic loves. Comes with a teacher resource, which I've never had to use because I just handed Dominic this and he just went to town with it. Dominic was in 1st grade last year. And it comes with something that's similar to the Numicon setup that Elizabeth had taught us about a long time ago, but it's a similar like blocks, and he gets to build the numbers, he gets to add and subtract, and he gets to learn with all of that. It's hands-on, and I'm telling you, I gotta take a moment to brag. So I didn't know how I was going to teach math to him, Sophia. I had no idea, and I was so scared. It wasn't until December, like the semester was almost over, and I cracked this book open because I was so scared. I'm like, I don't know how I can teach him. I played the DVD. He was totally engaged with it, and it turns out that the person who created Math UC has a son with Down syndrome and created this specifically so that his kid could learn math, right? Dominic was engaged with the DVD. I handed him this, and I'm not even exaggerating, in one sitting, just because he felt like it, he did 30 pages. 30, not exaggerating. Now there's 2 or 3 problems per page. It's not like he's doing algebra. But the fact that he kept turning the page, and as he was doing it, his handwriting was improving. His fine motor skills were improving. He was learning how to hold the pencil correctly or practicing it. So, and on top of that, this was developing his speech, because then he started saying the problems, right? Like I would say, what is 5 take away 3? And he would have to say 5 take away 3 equals, and he does the dramatic pause because he's my kid, and he goes 2, right? So he has to do a whole presentation. So I never knew that math would be a great thing for fine motor development and speech development. So I really, really recommend this. So this was last year's curriculum. I haven't set up my binder for this year's curriculum yet, but I just gotta say that this has been a wonderful thing for Dominic. So I can't brag about this even more. So there you go.
Thank you. That's very good to know. We're always looking for, there's so many different programs out there, right? And there's so many different approaches. And we lean on approaches like Numicon because we know they're evidence-based, but we also know that not every approach works for everybody, right? We all learn differently, and that's no exception for students with Down syndrome. And so it's really important. And Carrie, that's exactly why we wanted to have this particular Q&A session today, because as much as we believe in Numicon and touch math and things that we know have worked for large numbers of students with Down syndrome, there are these programs. I've never worked with Primer, and so learning about things like that, and I've got my note now to do some research, because we want to be able to share all of these different approaches and curriculums with our families, because sometimes you just got to try a lot of things on before you find the right fit, so appreciate that, Carrie.
Okay, what other questions or success stories from those of you who have been homeschooling?
I have a general question. I
Yeah.
am Michelle. So I have a high schooler who has been, we're still in the school district. And I guess I'm just trying to figure out, if you choose, since your kids seem much younger, Are you choosing the homeschooling route and sticking with homeschooling because you don't want to be in the unified school districts?
I personally am with my school district because I was very disappointed in how they approached educating my child.
Right.
If I were to move to another school district, I might consider re-enrolling him. I don't know if I would. I really like homeschooling him. It is challenging. I mean, it's hard to be mom and teacher. It's not easy. So I wouldn't say I'm anti-public school. I am anti my school district at the moment, and homeschooling has been a great way for us to step away from it. And it has worked really well with my middle schooler as well. So what about
Thank you.
anybody else who's doing it? Carrie, I know you're doing it, so.
Oh, same thing, just our school district, Kathleen and I were actually in the same school district, and I don't blame the teachers. Our school district has been, it's been a very messy situation in our school district. And the teachers, I know that in Dominic's case, the teachers really wanted to support him, but as Kathleen said earlier, the system, wasn't, well, it wasn't exactly built to support kids who learn differently, right? And I don't think it's the teacher's fault, definitely not. But Dominic has thrived with homeschooling, right? Because I mean, there's, and I'll tell you, there's some days that he just doesn't want to do the darn thing, right? There's some days when it's like, okay, let's do 5 science lessons because you just feel like it. But like for us, definitely it's our school district. We're actually moving out of the area, and we heard that we're going into a better school district that's very supported for kids with special needs, with IEPs who learn differently. If Dominic ever wants to go back to school, that is where I would want him to be. But if you were to say, Mom, you're driving me crazy, because I am, I do drive him crazy with all this and everything else. I wouldn't want to send him back to our school district. I'd rather have him be in a place where he is going to get the support that he needs.
So as a follow-up to that, the public schools have transitional programs for the ages 18 to 22. And as a homeschooling family, then are you concerned about losing those services or not?
I had not even thought about it, to be honest. That is a really good question. Elizabeth, do you know whether they would be eligible to re-enroll in those transitional programs if they were homeschooled up through high school?
I have never had a family member reach out to me about that. And so I don't know. I'm going to look at that while you guys are chatting. And I don't know, Carrie, if you have thought of that or have talked, if you know anything about that, but I'm not sure. I'm going to take a look and see.
In a similar vein, I'm curious, one thing, my daughter is very social and she loves hanging out with her peers. And we're in San Jose Unified School District. And, I decided to homeschool her this year because she has a heart defect and I've just been nervous about COVID. And, she's struggled with health issues before, but she loves being around people, and she's great and doing so well academically here at home with me. But it's so important for me that she learns how to be in these settings, just to be able to like hang out and learn how to be in a setting. But school is also so stressful. Like I just don't know how to balance that, that need to teach her how to be in a, institution, in a setting like school or whatever that will be in the future, with her not being too stressed out by it. And like now that she's homeschooled, how do I still get her those practice in those kinds of settings? Like she has, we do play dates and we do organize sports, and she's great at that stuff. But I don't know, I just always feel like I'm constantly searching for like places where she can practice being around other people in a way that is teaching her social skills. And I just find it harder and harder to find them as she gets older. You know, when she was younger, it was easy to sign up for baby classes and, you know, things were more available. But as she's getting older, it's harder to find settings where she can be social and practice her social skills and still be supported. Do you guys have any tips for that stuff?
I would look to your local homeschooling groups and see, there are often like hybrid situations. Wow, did we lose Elizabeth? I think we did. Hopefully she'll come back. Oh no, she's still there. We lost somebody else. There are often hybrid situations where your child can go to school for 2 days a week and is homeschooled 3 days a week or something like that. And the homeschool community, you get a community of kids just like you would in a public school. However, I will say it's a little different in that a public school, you're surrounded by all types of different people. In the homeschool community, there is often kind of a similar mentality to child raising and education. So it's going to be a little bit more of a bubble than just a standard public school. So I guess you have to keep that in mind, but there are definitely socialization opportunities.
Agreed. I think that, I know that you are you have signing her up for different activities. I mean, those are kind of real world social situations, right? I know that there are small social skills groups out there where you actually have trained professionals who can help facilitate social skills, who work on social emotional learning to help build, kiddos' confidence and to be able to navigate social situations more independently. There are, camps, of course, are a great way to help mimic things that like transitions from one activity to another in different settings, so that your kiddo will have an opportunity to experience that, where there might be a structured piece followed by, a free play kind of piece. And those are critical skills to build as far as when you're navigating the real world. But, always also just taking a look at different social opportunities at your local playground, having those play dates, trying to help facilitate those pragmatic social skills in those kind of naturalistic situations. But engaging kids in play across different environments is just a great way to help them generalize those social skills. So just looking at every opportunity, like Kathleen was talking about, finding those learning opportunities in all of those different kinds of scenarios and situations. It's kind of the same with social skills. But yeah, I would look at different camps. Obviously we have some peer development groups that we have here with Down Syndrome Connection. We do music therapy. Those are some other opportunities to socialize with other kiddos. But yeah, if there are any sports or clubs or camps, those are just great ways. And again, I think the more you try to work that kind of social interaction and to help facilitate it, even if it's, you see a boy or girl at the park who's interested, right? And may not know your kiddo, but you can help kind of facilitate or model those pragmatic skills around them, and try to help. Again, that just helps generalize those skills. When you're not in school, you kind of always have to have that mindset of each opportunity is a learning opportunity, whether it's social and emotional, or it's, academic. May I also can we address a couple of questions here? Okay. One says, do you have any tips on memory retention for a grade schooler, please? My 8-year-old daughter forgets some learned materials so quickly. I would say the short answer to that is repetition, 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 repetition. It is well known that our kiddos need repetition in order to commit that to that working memory. And introducing the same kind of key content or the learning goal that you're trying to achieve, introducing it across environments in lots of different ways is a way to help generalize that information and retain it, where they're seeing it in lots of different ways. And then also trying to tie meaning to it, something that is motivating for that student, something that they're super into, super motivated by. So if it is, you know, a Disney character they love, or if it's a particular kind of toy, or, you know, and this, you can always find a way to tie in that thing you're trying to teach into a motivator. And what we know is that I think all students, but you know, as experts in understanding the learning profile of students with Down syndrome, we do know that utilizing strengths, motivators, and interests are a great way to help those students retain that information, because now it's meaningful and interesting to them. I hope that helps. How are therapy services provided within the homeschool setting? You're welcome. Speech and OT. Do you want to speak to that, Cathleen?
Yeah, so it depends. If you're with a charter, they will cover your therapy services just like you would through, you know, the public school. They just contract out to third-party vendors. So, you know, we go to Brentwood for our therapy, and it's honestly the same vendor that Kaiser sends us to. So there's just various third-party vendors, and they will cover it for you. So there's no cost to you. If you are not with a charter, it is up to you. So you have to either go through your medical insurance or pay out of pocket or ask the regional center. If you have Medi-Cal, you can ask Medi-Cal. Usually regional center is like your last stop. They're going to want you to get it through the school. And if you say, well, homeschooled, then we don't have it available, they'll say, then go to your medical insurance. And if you say, my medical insurance won't cover it, they'll say, how about Medi-Cal? And if you say Medi-Cal won't cover it, then they'll say, okay, fine, we'll give it to you. So somebody will get it for you, but you may have to go through the chain of command a bit.
Michelle, I just wanted to let you know, and for everyone here, I want to just continue my research into, I didn't want to be like completely distracted by that and not be able to address these questions in real time, but I'd be more than happy to email you that information. In fact,
Sure.
We can make it available to everyone here if you'd like.
Thank you.
So I think that's a great question. And I'd love to have a clear answer for it so that when we are asked that in the future, we know how to respond to that. So I appreciate that. That's an excellent question.
Yeah, you stumped all of us. Good for you. You get the prize today.
Well, it came up because I didn't think about a homeschooling option, you know, even though I essentially did all of Jackson's distance learning schooling while he was Zooming last year. And the challenge was now with his complex heart-lung situation and the school failing him again, the only option I had was home hospital instruction. And I'm just really frustrated with that concept. And I was like, I could be doing so much better job than what these guys are doing. And it's not like, you know, everybody says it's not the teachers, it's these policies that are these program specialists are the gatekeepers for that make it that they depersonalize it, and they're not supportive, or I don't know if it's not the specialists, not the people, it's the program. That just make it so that they failed my child time and time again. And I'm so excited to hear about all these options that I'm hearing from all of you, because there's still a chance when those charter spaces open up for us to get involved in doing something that's more along the lines that where he will be happy. He's living his best life right now because we lost our ABA person and we don't have school going on. And so it's just up to mom coming up with worksheets, because I have nothing in school. I've got nothing. I don't even have the teacher assigned yet. So, I mean, he's loving having not any structure, but we really need to get something going because he's a smart guy. And so I appreciate that. I just don't know where I'm supposed to go, if I stick with this HHI thing, or do I homeschool, and then what happens after that? You know, that's really the concern, because he's a junior in high school. And so we're very late to this party, but it sounds like it's a good party and I want to get involved as soon as I can. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that.
If I could add, Michelle, are you on
Hi,
Facebook?
Carrie.
Hi, are you on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna send you a friend request and I'm gonna invite you to like 1,000 homeschooling groups.
Okay.
Most of them are in the Bay Area, and some of
Thanks.
them are homeschooling for kids with Down syndrome, and that's
Okay.
a national group. It's amazing.
Okay.
The thing also with Visions in Education, where Kathleen and I have our kids, is that they
Mhm.
have a homeschool program and then they have an independent study program.
Mhm.
And I think there's a separate one for high school. So I'm gonna just do a little digging and see
Thank
if they
you.
have openings for their high school or independent studies, because
Okay.
we know that K-8 they are just they're
Jammed.
they're at capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the state, I think, put a cap on funding.
Yeah.
for the
I'm sure that's
charters.
what it was. Sure.
Yeah,
When
and
they saw the schools bleeding.
yeah, and so I mean, yeah,
Appreciate it.
I'm sure it was the best intentions, but I'll send you a friend request. And actually, if anybody else wants in on these Facebook groups, I'm Carrie DeLuca, and if you want to find me on Facebook, I can invite you to every group that I'm in.
Thanks, Carrie.
Question.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same situation as Michelle, where my district offered a virtual academy, but as soon as they started with their checklist, they made it obvious that Sophia would not be accepted into that, even though she did a modified version of that last year. And I'm also just only being offered home and hospital, and I still don't have a teacher or anything. So I have thought about the homeschool, but I know I've called a couple of the charter schools here, and when I send the IEP, they just tell me that they don't have the staff to help me out. So I've thought about, doing the PSA. But I'm a little nervous about doing that because, I know she's getting the certificate of completion, so I just don't know if I would be hurting Sophia by going that route. I don't know what to do.
I hear you.
When you say she's getting the certificate of completion, do you mean she's not on diploma track anymore, or?
I think that's what my district is offering, is just a certificate of completion. They're not doing, they just said that Sophia would not get a diploma. So what she would get is it's a certificate of completion, high school.
Got it. So Elizabeth, that's not the same as diploma, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. So with a PSA, you're doing it all on your own. So, you would be hurting her if you didn't put any effort into it and you were just like, here's a C-Spot run book and that's all you're going to read for the whole year. Yeah, then you'd be hurting her for sure. But, the fact that you're here tells me you're not that kind of mom, and you're going to put your whole focus into her learning and making sure that she learns. So I personally don't think that you would be hurting her, because you know how she learns. You're going to make sure she keeps learning. And for my son, who's not on diploma track, my goal for him is always just that he is always learning. I don't ever want him to stop learning, but I don't have to reach that benchmark of diploma, because that is a benchmark that he wasn't going to be able to make. So my goal for him is just keep learning. When he masters something, we make it a little harder and we just keep going. And, it's my personal opinion, but I don't think I'm hurting him, and I don't think you'd be hurting your daughter.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'd love to, Lenny, you have been waiting very patiently. I've seen your hand up, and I don't know if you still have a question, but I know we don't have a ton of time left. So I just wanted to make sure that, Lenny, with you, that you're heard. And of course, anyone else, if you do have a question, that's great. We want to address them as well, but you've been very patient, so please.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm obviously Karen, not Lenny, but
Oh, yeah, sorry.
yeah, that's okay. I'm using his Zoom. I'm sorry I'm late. I have been so overwhelmed, I just forgot it. But long story short, it sounds like we're in the same boat as many other people. My husband just went through a bone marrow transplant. He's immune compromised. We cannot return to school in the way that they are doing it now. Our son's also slightly immune compromised. we are still in limbo. We haven't heard anything. We applied for the online learning program. It's like crickets. We don't know what's going on. Long story short, it sounds like that's happening a lot. So I was just actually going to ask, it sounds like this is being recorded. So because I was late and it is really important, and I apologize for that. And I'm just a little bit on spin cycle with everything right now. So would there be a way to get a recording of this session? Just
Yeah, I will send it out to everyone who registered, and you don't have to apologize for being late. We're all just doing the best we can here.
Oh my God. But is that sort of what everyone else is experiencing too? Like they're kind of just on their own at this point and trying to homeschool how they know how. I guess I did have one question about the difference between establishing a private school and just, teaching that way versus homeschooling. Are those different, or is that the same thing?
Not
And that
exactly.
been addressed, but
Yeah, you'll see it when you watch the recording of the presentation, but the short answer is there are two ways to homeschool. You can join a charter, which are full for this year, or you can establish a private school and you just do it on your own.
okay.
Both of them are homeschooling, so you can do it either way.
Is it possible to re-enter a district after you go that route, or how does that work? Like, does your IEP just freeze while you do your private school and then you go back in and they have another IEP meeting to figure out how, that's all going to work, or how does
I believe so. If you do the private school affidavit, if you go the charter route, like next year, they will do an IEP for you. You'll have a whole IEP. And then you'd go back into public school with that IEP, and I'm sure they'd call a meeting and want to tweak things based on their school and whatever. But if you do the private school affidavit, I think it would just freeze and you'd have to have a new IEP meeting when you re-enter.
Okay, yeah, so obviously we don't know how that's going to go. Hopefully my husband will be strong enough at some point where our son can go back to school. But have other people also experienced the district just being like crickets at this point and not really accommodate? Or like, what's going on? I have no idea. Anybody?
I can say that you're the only one who is going through this, and there are a lot of families who feel that they are not getting timely responses with everything kind of being so up in the air after the pandemic, and a lot of families having lots of different needs, and different local education agencies are, have their own rules for their districts, and there's so much going on, and unfortunately, that I think that it's for lack of better terms, it's kind of a hot mess right now. And so persistence, putting things in writing, making sure that you have documented, you are that you need support, you need an answer. They do
we have documented the time that, the application process and everything, but I'm going to send a long email this weekend. But quite frankly, with everything we've had going on, I almost feel it might just be easier to just set up a private school charter at this point and just, work on, education that we know our son will love, and, have it be interesting. And they're just doing a lot of the same over and over again, it seems like, in the district right now with what they're presenting education wise. And I feel like there's so much redundancy that we could make it more fun, I think.
Definitely encourage you to watch this recording.
Yes, I will.
Cathleen gives a lot of great information in her slideshow presentation about the process itself, and kind of what comes with each option, and then some helpful resources for learning and ways to engage, etc.
Okay.
And then, of course, you're always welcome to reach out to me, Karen, at Elizabeth at DSCBA.org, Cathleen at DSCBA.org, and we're always happy to help you address any specific questions or concerns that you have.
Okay, that sounds great.
After that, and then Carrie, as Facebook friend her and get in on all of the groups.
Probably the only person in the world not on Facebook.
That's what, yeah, I understand that completely. But that is why we have this support system. That is why, you know, Down Syndrome Connection exists, because we all want to learn from one another, to help one another, to connect and build our community so that we do understand what's going on, and we can, you know, where one of us doesn't have an answer, someone else does. So, you know, we encourage you to stay connected in any way you can. And then we're always here for you to reach out as well.
Yeah, thank you. And then the recording will be great too, because then I can go.
Well, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
email
Yes.
everybody.
So I saw one more question I'm just going to answer real quick. Somebody asked, how soon should I apply for homeschooling? I would look at the charters in your area. If you're talking about charters, look at the charters in your county and look at each website to see when they are opening applications for next year. If you're talking about private school affidavit, you can do it anytime. They say it officially opens October 1st, but if you read further down the page, it says, but it's open year round. So, you know, you could decide tomorrow you wanted to do it if you wanted to. I will send out the slideshow today and the recording probably Monday. I need to have our person who knows how to upload it to YouTube, which is not me, upload it to YouTube. And then I will send it out to everyone so you can watch it.
All right. Well, with that, thank you everybody for coming out. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate everybody's input, your questions. They're all very meaningful, and hopefully some folks are feeling a little bit better about looking into homeschooling or proceeding with homeschooling. And again, we're here for you for any other questions that might pop into your head after this Q&A session. And we do really appreciate your feedback. And if this is something that we want more of, you know, we have the ability to have part 2s and part 3s of this. So obviously there is a need there, and we want to help fill in those gaps as much as we can. So keep on coming out to our workshops and our Q&As, stay in touch, and let's stay connected. And thank you very much. Thank you everyone very much for joining. Thank you, Kathleen, so much for your presentation.
Oh, you bet.
Yes, thank you so much.
Have a good weekend.
All right. Have a great weekend, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.